History of modern banking. Banking in old time wasn't the tightly monitored and tightly regulated business that it is today. Instead, earlier banking was completely a free market operation. Any entrepreneur could enter and exit the banking business without any restriction or license. In this article, we will trace the evolution of banking, how banking changed to be the highly regulated business that it is today. Goldsmith to money lenders. The banking profession, in the strictest sense of the word, was first carried on by goldsmiths in medieval Europe. Since it was the business of the goldsmith to deal with valuable commodities, the goldsmith would build strong forts to protect their inventory from theft. The residents of the town want to rent the goldsmith's secure fort in order to keep their money safe. The goldsmith therefore started taking deposit, and this was in a way the birth of modern banking. Over a period of time, the goldsmith realized that the deposits are usually far in excess of the withdrawal. This means that if 100 gold coins were deposited with the goldsmith, statistically only 10 of them would be withdrawn at any given time. Therefore, the goldsmith started lending out the money that they had held on deposit even though it didn't belong to them. This was the birth of the second major function of modern banking, lending money. Taking deposit and making loans together changed the nature of the goldsmith business to money lending. Over a period of time, this would further evolve and become banking. Unregulated era. The modern era saw money lending transform into banking. Taking deposits, making loans out of deposit was now the usual business of institutions now called banks. Also, the depositors didn't have to pay a fee to the banker to safeguard their gold in his secure vault. Instead, they received compensation in the form of interest to park their excess gold with the bankers. This was the era of unregulated banks. Banking during this era was entrepreneurial in nature. Therefore, anyone who wanted could set up a bank and enter the business. There were no licenses required and there were no regulation. This era continued. By then, banking had become big business, and some of the famous bankers, like the Medici family and the Rothschild family, were considered to be more powerful than kings. Issuance of private bank notes. As banking evolved over time, people realized that carrying large amounts of gold over long distance was unsafe as well as inconvenient. The radius of trade and commerce began to spread far and wide, and carrying money over long distance became necessary. This was the birth of bank notes. Private banks would issue private bank notes. The notes were nothing but a receipt for gold that had been deposited at the bank and could be withdrawn if the receipt was presented. Some of these notes were bearer notes. The gold would be paid out to whoever brought in the note to the bank. This was the beginning of what we do today refer to as a fiat money. At one point in time, there were over 30,000 different types of private bank notes in circulation in the United States. Needless to say that this created tremendous confusion, and as a result special books had to be published. These books would specify the authenticity, and the value of different banknotes, and how safe was it to accept such notes as payment. Thank you.